the first installment of Plugged In and Pissed Off, a bi weekly video series where two overworked but unapologetic movement workers break down the mess of politics and culture from our screen to yours. To get us well acquainted, I am Beatrice B., the Deputy Director of North Carolina for the People and North Carolina for the People Action. Also, a North Carolinian since 2015, but well versed in what's pissing me off politically and what should piss you off as a North Carolinian. To continue our introductions, I'll pass it off to Joselle.
Thanks, Beatrice. Hey, everyone. I'm Joselle, and I'm the Communications Manager at Democracy North Carolina. And yeah, we're getting you plugged in on the things that are pissing us off politically in North Carolina and across the country. Today, we're going to be talking about the racist, gerrymandered maps that literally just got passed in the House and now become law about 2 hours ago. We're recording this on Wednesday, October 22nd here in North Carolina. And yeah, that was pretty rough. That was pretty rough there. The last since Friday, so not even a whole week, the maps were proposed, they were dropped, and then the public comment portal opened for these maps, and they were voted on in the Senate and the House within 24-ish hours, and now it's law. So lawmakers can pass stuff. They can do work here in North Carolina, but only when it benefits them. Yeah. How are you feeling, Beatrice?
Well, how I'm feeling about it in general is clearly just another opportunity for these Republicans to take power, to move the goalposts back. And honestly, to add to everything that you said, this definitely was not something that happened overnight. This has been a game plan from the Republican Party for a long time now, especially since our Russo case. And please forgive me if I'm butchering that name. But this case specifically was a U.S. Supreme Court case that determined whether states could redraw maps purely for partisan gain. Though this ruling did not make partisan gerrymandering legal per se, but it closed the door to federal court challenges, right? So this ultimately means that the court that would normally provide solutions in situations like this, right? Where Republicans or even a political party that feel that the maps may not be in their favor to stay within their power, the power that they have from their role and not overstep and create maps that are clearly unethical, clearly not democratic, and ultimately destroying the democracy that we have here in North Carolina. But we know that this redistricting situation that isn't just happening here, it's happening all
Yeah,
over the country, especially in
absolutely.
Texas. But North Carolina is just a state that's joining this. But I want to go send it back to you really quick, Joselle. Do you think you could provide us like a timeline, if you can at all, of how we got here, especially considering that in the last 5 years we've had four new maps. So we might not have all the time, but you could take a few seconds to get our people on a basic understanding of what gerrymandering is and what's currently happening right now in our General Assembly.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, let's start in 2018 with that Rucho decision. The Rucho name might be familiar because guess what? There was a power grab with the North Carolina State Board of Elections
Yeah.
also this past year, and Rucho is now a part of our North Carolina State Board of Elections. And he was one of the main people in this partisan gerrymandering case that did go all the way up to SCOTUS. SCOTUS said, hey, back to the states, states' rights. And in actually 2022, the North Carolina Supreme Court struck down partisan gerrymandering here in North Carolina. They said, hey, you can't do
Mhm.
that. You can't pick your voters. Partisan gerrymandering is illegal here in North Carolina.
Right.
And what they ruled was an independent commission, a special master has to draw maps. So Senator High, Senator Berger, none of these folks that have a history of partisan and racial gerrymandering here in North Carolina can draw these maps. And in 2022, the Princeton Gerrymandering Project named those maps that we used the most fairest maps that North Carolina has ever seen. There was a true 7-7 split, which means there were seven favorable Democrat districts and seven favorable Republican districts. And we used that map. Voters used that map in 2022, and we had a really clear opportunity for us to be a purple state, which we are. The numbers have shown time and time again that we are a purple state. Well, in 2022, the North Carolina Supreme Court also, after that election, flipped the majority to a conservative majority. And for the first time in North Carolina's history, they struck down their previous ruling, not because a court ordered it, not because SCOTUS ordered it, because they had a conservative majority and Republicans and those that are in power wanted to be able to partisan gerrymander. So they reversed their decision, and now partisan gerrymandering by way of North Carolina Supreme Court is legal in North Carolina. Fast forward to 2023 when the maps got redrawn again and they went from a 7-7 split to the 10-4 split that we used in the presidential election last year. So they already favored themselves. They already went from a 7-7 split to this 10-4 split. So they picked up 3 more seats and they are still unhappy with that power grab. Fast forward to 2025, this year, we know the redistricting wars are happening. Senator Heiss loved to say all week that it's California's fault, it's the radical left's fault, but completely forgetting that President Trump asked Texas to do this first, to
Right.
find him more seats and more districts. California was a response to the redistricting war and the passage of the redistricting maps in Texas. And so this whole back and forth and messaging scheme really here to say, oh, it's the radical left. Oh, we're doing we're trying to push back against Gavin Newsom. Yeah,
Right.
those are talking points, right? They love the radical left. They love to weaponize and villainize the radical left. And so also during that time, a couple weeks ago, President Trump on social media said, hey, Senator Berger, who's the president of the Senate here in North Carolina, you have a
Right.
primary coming up and you have a sheriff who is ultra MAGA. And actually, if you look at the numbers, he's polling pretty well for his voters and constituents. And so Berger got scared. He was scared he might lose his seat and lose his primary. And Trump said, if you redistrict and find me one more seat, I will endorse you.
Yep.
And here we are.
Yeah. And so in reality, all we're looking at is friends doing favors for each other, right? They are making politics, if you will, our congressional districts, if you will, just chess pieces in their game of chess and figuring out what to move around to make things work for them, right? Honestly, moving back the goalposts. But I do want to take a second to educate our audience on when are these maps normally drawn, right? When are they normally redrawn? And there's only 2 situations where they are normally redrawn, right? Or at least ethically. One, after the census to rebalance the populations and uphold the 14th Amendment's one person, one vote principle, or when a court order changes or acts, for these maps to be changed to fix legal violation. And what's happening now is neither, right? And that second opportunity of when courts are normally, you know, submit a court order for these maps to be fixed, right, due to legal violations, that opportunity has been removed due to the Rucho decision here. And we see that. But I also want to take a second to talk about the impact on the communities, right? In this specific situation alone, and why we're so amped up about it, if you will, and why the tagline, the slogan, racist maps created by racist reps is such a thing is because the current congressional district that's being attacked is North Carolina's very own historical Black Belt region, right? For decades, this area alone has
Decades.
affected the state's progress towards equal representation and opportunity. Fragmenting such communities risk reversing that process and diminishing the influence of historically underrepresented voters, right? It's not just a technical issue. It's about whether every community has a fair opportunity to elect candidates of its choice and advocate its needs in Washington, right? And not to just
Absolutely.
add in there that this district alone, this congressional district alone, is represented by a Black
Yes.
legislator,
Yes.
right? Don Davis.
Absolutely.
Now, do we have any information at all on like what his stance may be on this? What support he might have need if this is something that he's fighting for at all, his congressional district? Uh, what do we know?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, you made a great like background framing for like Don Davis and like what he's going to face. So if you look at the representation for this district, Don Davis is one of only 3 Black members that represent us in Congress at the US. And North Carolina has a deep and rich history of Black movement and communities here in North Carolina, particularly in the Northeast. If we looked at what happened to Andrew Brown Jr. and the fatal brutality by the police that happened in Elizabeth City, when we look at the effects of hurricanes and extreme and natural disasters that has tore up the northeastern part of North Carolina, like those communities have faced so much, and it is Black communities. And the representation has to match the people that are in that district and the representative that is representing that district. They need to be aligned. Those communities of interest need to match. And Don Davis, and before him, Representative Butterfield, going
Okay.
all the way back, has always been, like you said, historical Black representation. And we need that here in North Carolina. Black communities need that here in North Carolina. And so Don Davis, he's against this. Congresswoman Alma Adams and
Right.
Foushee also came
Right.
out against this as our only Black representation in Congress in North Carolina. And so, yeah, we're going to make sure the voters understand what's happening, and we're going to make sure that they show up at the ballot because the numbers and the data, Senator Heiss, who is the person that put up these maps this week and stood firmly and staunchly saying he was the only one that drew these maps. He had no input from outside counsel, President Trump. We'll see how that
But
ends up in
can
court.
we can we pause on that really quick? To say that you had no outside input, right? But we are watching the very person you may have
Yep,
received input from
yep,
tweet on a
yep,
public platform from a
yep,
public account saying, "Hey, if you do such and such," like I think, and I don't know if this is inappropriate to say, but I almost think that they believe that their viewers are idiots. Like we're watching in real time the input that you're saying you did not receive be posted for
yep,
everyone to review, but
yep,
maybe they're hoping that we just ignore it. We
yeah.
shouldn't. And I hope we're
No,
not. And I hope
no,
those that are watching don't. But like, let's pause on that really quick. The
yep,
proof is there, but
yep.
sorry.
No, no, you're absolutely right. It's like it's wild. And the president loves to declare policy or war or whatever he's doing, flying literal planes of shit over protesters
Yes, right.
across the country over
Yeah.
social media. But does that actually prove as an official directive from the presidential administration in court? We're in a new scenario and a new
Yeah.
landscape where
I say
really
we put a
that's
pin
being
in that
challenged.
and see if it will, but you
Yeah.
know.
No, but for real. And so like Heiss, right? He was in his game. He's like, no, Senator Berger had nothing to do with this because Trump had publicly stated he would endorse Berger. And you said it, right? Like they're using voters of North Carolina as political pawns. And
Yeah.
racial gerrymandering is really what's going to be at play here because partisan gerrymandering as the 2023 Supreme Court issued is legal, right? So that's why Heiss all week was like, we're doing this for Republican majority. We're doing this to have more Republican representation because now he can actually say that part out
Right.
loud,
Right.
but he can't say he's racially discriminating against voters because Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act is something that is still law of the land of today. And there is a case that's
Hopefully.
actually, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and go
God
ahead,
willing.
Beatrice. Yeah, give us some background on that case.
Well, I don't have too many details on it, right? But I did want to take a second to uplift that so that people could take their time, if able, if having the knowledge to understand to look into that situation, right? Currently, the Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act is being contested in our United States Supreme Court. And this is a crucial, crucial section of the Voting Rights Act that gives a lot of people that look like me and Joselle, people of color across the country, a fair right to vote. So I won't take too much time on it, but I did want to bring some attention to that as we're discussing the current redistricting dilemmas that we're facing here in North Carolina. But yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, there's really great articles out there at the Brennan Center. I have some notes. That's why you see me looking at the screen over here. But the Section 2 of the law was used really in connection with the redistricting. It really was meant for Black voters. Our John
Mhm.
Lewis, Martin Luther King, all of our incredible civil rights leaders that ensured the passage of the Voting Rights Act in the 60s. Those are the ancestors and leaders and icons really that we as people of North Carolina, people of the global majority, non-white communities are building our power upon. And if Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act was gutted based on this case that's in SCOTUS right now, a Louisiana's case, which is the same thing, they're arguing that a large majority of Black representation was drawn out in Louisiana, we're going to really put ourselves back. And we know that's what this administration wants. They want authoritarian control. They want lived fascism in the 1920 or in the 2025 era that we're living in. And they want to bring us back to the 1940s and 20s, the golden era, as they would say, the nuclear family, the traditional values, whatever dog whistle insert here. That's where they
Right.
want to bring us back.
Absolutely, absolutely, and I don't mean to giggle, but honestly, that's what it is. Whatever dog whistle, insert here, right? It goes back to my point that I was hesitant to say, but after our conversation, more confident to say they think we're idiots. Quote Scissor's grandmother. They think that we will not take the time to look into what's actually happening here, and some of us, unfortunately, don't have the time or don't have the knowledge to look
No,
into it. But that's why we take this
absolutely.
opportunity to hopefully motivate you all to really participate in your local elections, to really stay informed of what's currently happening here. That yes, they're trying to bring us back to the 1920s, the 1940s, some golden era, etc. But essentially, this is Jim Crow 3.0. For decades, North Carolina voters have faced obstacles to fair participation, ranging from restrictive voting laws and reduced polling places to district maps that split communities and weaken representation, which is Congressional District 1 is currently facing. These tactics narrow the electorate and make it harder for North Carolinians, especially communities of color, young
Mm,
voters, working families, to have their
yes,
voices fully heard.
yes,
Some
yes,
folks may call that Jim Crow 2.0, but honestly, this challenge has evolved and we'll call it Jim Crow 3.0, right? Instead of
literally.
nibbling at the margins of participation, today's strategies threaten democracy outright. Extreme gerrymandering wars Trump started in Texas, he also did in Georgia. Now here in North Carolina, tweeting, Phil, but like, let's be for real, designed to overthrow the will of the people, period.
Yes,
Create
period.
pathways for election boards or courts, right? Emphasis on that to throw out ballots after they've been casted, as we saw in the Griffin Challenge. That's a whole nother
Yes,
conversation, but I want to
yes.
bring that up as well. This
Yeah, it's
moment
all
isn't
connected.
about partisan advantage. It's about whether our democratic system remains accountable to its people. And honestly, it this is now an opportunity to see what can be allowed, right? North Carolina is just a petri dish to all these different injustices that we're experiencing when it comes to our democracy, whether it's extreme gerrymandering, whether it's voting rights, whether it's the Griffin case, you name it. And at this point, I'm looking over my shoulder to see what's next, but we have to stay 10 toes down, both
Right.
feet planted, and
That's
stay
right.
in, and hold our local elected officials accountable. Trump could tweet you all day, but what are
That's
you going
right.
to do about it?
Yeah,
How
again,
are you gonna respond? And that's what we need to pay attention to, right? Trump only
yes,
has but so much power in DC. He does. Hence why he can reach out to these people and tweet what he tweets and ask for these favors, because he knows he doesn't have let that be something we take seriously. Let
yeah,
that be something we keep in mind and we calculate in such way that he knows he does not have power here in our states. We do. We us North Carolinians do, and we need to hold these people accountable. And I'll
yeah, and I
conclude.
yeah, no, I mean, you make really, really strong points because this moves past partisanship, you know, Tom Tillis voted against the big, beautiful bill because he
Mhm.
knew that it would take away Medicaid and healthcare coverage for hundreds and thousands of North Carolinians who need this in rural North Carolina and Western North Carolina that was devastated by Hurricane Helene, in Northeastern North Carolina, where Congressional District 1 is. Like Tom Tillis, a Republican, a staunch Republican, who
Right,
has done
right.
many things in here in North Carolina that's gone against our democracy. Even he said no. And the moment he said no, Trump attacked him and he did not run for his seat again. And because he was scared, it was an imitation. It's a bully tactic. We have a bully in the administration and it goes past partisanship. And Representative Reeves today on the House floor, with the little time that he was given to provide his comments, because we got duped on that too. He said that. He's like, I am scared. I am scared that when you are doing things for one person instead of the people that you represent, that this isn't going to come around to bite you.
Yeah,
And the next time you are asked to do something and it goes past your limit, you've already set this precedent that you're going to do it anyway, no matter who it hurts. And that is a really scary place to be, no matter what side of the aisle you're on.
right.
Representative Harrison also brought up a really strong number in committee yesterday, saying that since 2011, $22,512,000 has been spent, taxpayer money has been spent on litigation related to redistricting here in North Carolina. So we
Like,
can't have a state budget. We can't have teacher raises. We can't have Medicaid expand, or we can't have funded Medicaid healthcare centers, or raises for state employees and workers. But you can spend $22 million of taxpayer money on races and gerrymandered maps.
and like, let that be a thing. Follow the money, right? There's so much power in how these maps are drawn, because if people participate the way they're supposed to, that's where the real power is. And they are spending this much money to remove that power from you. In conclusion, right?
In
22
conclusion,
million. Those are 22.
$22,512,000.
Meanwhile, because of the government's closure, right? We're about to be almost into a month in it. There's families who depend on state benefits that might not receive those benefits come November.
They literally said that people can't eat. They don't have money for SNAP. Children cannot get their I'm sorry, it makes me so upset. Their baby
Sorry.
formula and their food. Like, people can't eat. But you have time and money to do racist things with the people of North Carolina and our maps and the representation that people have here. It's so frustrating, but we will not be silent and we will not back down, because every single
Yeah.
day there's a mother in a family that gets up and goes to work to feed her family. There is people like you and me that are out there shouting and demanding fair representation and pushing for people power at the state level, at the local level, and right in your community center and at home. And we can't stop doing that.
We can't. We can't. And with that, I do want us, and my thing is I love to leave people with a call to action. What are we asking people to do to some extent? Right? Bully them back. It's like, no, no, but sincerely, hold our politicians
When they
accountable.
go high, I
We
don't know
go
where we go. When
low.
they go low, I don't know where we go.
Yeah, I don't know where we're going. I love Michelle, but this idea of when they go high, we go high. No, when they go high, when they go low, we go lower. Okay, we hold these people
We
accountable.
go
We submit.
louder.
Yeah, we get louder. We submit public comments. We blow up their voicemail box. We
That's
write
right.
letters. A lot of people don't
That's
know that
right.
you can go to the North Carolina General Assembly as just a regular civilian. You don't need a suit. You
That's
don't need a
right.
badge.
That's
You don't need a
right.
name badge. You don't need a title. You don't need to participate in this work. You can go in there and go to speak to your senator, your representative, your legislator on your own accord. That might be a lot or difficult to do for some people, considering the situations that we're in with working, etc. But I want people to know the comfortability that they should have with
Yeah.
our politicians, so
Yes.
that we can properly hold them accountable.
They
There's
work
there
for us.
They work for us. Sincerely, getting up early in the morning to work 12 hours a day to do right for you and your family, and those tax dollars that come out of your check that you could have used that money to save, invest, you name it, goes to these politicians' salary. They work for us. They work for us. Let's hold them accountable. Let's advocate for an independent redistricting process that removes conflicts of interest and builds public trust. Let's advocate for proportional representation as a long-term way to ensure that every vote counts equally and all voices are heard. There's plenty of different reforms that we can back, but essentially at the end of the day, hold these politicians accountable. Hold them accountable.
That's
Trump
right.
tweets all day. We need to be tweeting them too.
That's right. And let's not forget that Senator Berger was in favor of an independent redistricting commission when
What?
Democrats had control.
Yep.
And so, listen, let's just make it easier. Let's make it a little bit easier for you to have your voice heard. Go
Mhm.
to your local town halls, go to your city council meetings. Like, you don't even need to go to the state legislature because if that feels like a lot, it is. Like, Beatrice and I are in it.
Yeah.
That's okay.
Yeah.
Just get to know what's happening in your town. We have municipal elections that are happening
Plenty,
all over across the state on
plenty.
November 4th here in North Carolina.
Absolutely.
So go and head on over to ncvoter.org and check
Mhm.
out if your town or city is having a municipal election. And then next year, we know 2026 is about to be a wild
Absolutely.
election.
Quick shameless plug. Next year, our biggest feat would be judicial elections for our North Carolina Supreme Court. We have local elections happening this fall, November 4th. Please visit ncvoter.org to see what elections are happening near you for you to vote. We're currently in early voting. It
Yes,
started October
yes. Early
16th.
vote. Go
Yeah,
early
please
vote early.
and
Get it
get that
out
out
the
the way.
way.
And
Yes,
get that out the way.
yes. And then
Ask your
also,
supervisors if you could take
yes,
a lunch to go vote. I'm sure they'll be for it.
yes.
Some aren't, but a lot of polling places in North Carolina don't close until 7:30. So by all means, participate in your local elections. I'll speak quickly for me. I know as a Durham native that we currently have Durham elections on the board from city council all the way up to our mayor. Please participate. Please look into which candidate would be best represented for you and your values and vote, y'all. Vote.
Absolutely. Over 80% of North Carolinians have a municipal election happening in November. So
Mhm.
head over to ncvoter.org. If you have any questions, you can also text 888 our vote. That's 888-687-8683. Give them a text, give them a call. They can hook you up with all the voter information you need so you don't have to do any more work than you're already doing because we're stretched thin these days. So give 888
Absolutely.
our vote a text, and we'll get you hooked up with an election expert that will help you make a voting plan.
Yes, absolutely. Well,
Yeah, Beatrice, thanks so much for joining today, for hashing this
I cannot
out. Like,
wait
this is like
to see it.
raw realness. Like, I'm pissed off. Like, this is
It should be.
ridiculous. And, we got to keep y'all plugged in on what's happening. So stay
Mhm.
tuned. We'll have another episode coming out soon. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yes. It's been great, y'all. Hope to see you
Yes.
guys next episode.
Absolutely. Don't forget to follow us, Democracy North Carolina, NC for the People on Instagram, Blue Sky, Threads, Facebook, and a new plugged in and pissed off Substack is coming your way soon. So be sure
Mhm.
to subscribe to our channel and get out and vote.